How does the Creator let there be light? All right, that's the question for today. That is the question for number 137 on the list of the 144 fractal faculties of the Tree of Life. If you'd like to get a full listing of all 144, just leave your name and email in the comment section, and I'll send that out to you for free. It's just 3-4 sentences on each one of the 144 fractal faculties. And it's good as a study guide, as a reference guide. You're able to compare and contrast. You're able to see the whole picture all at once. And it just makes it a lot easier than when I do these videos for you to kind of add it all up. Also, I have a video out there on YouTube that's called Tree of Life, an Introduction, that can also help you get up to speed for these videos. It's just 10 minutes long. If you want to put in a little bit more time and some money into it, you can send me $10 on either Cash App or Venmo, and I will send you a copy of my book called The Mass Tree, which is a 65 or so pages of introduction to the Tree of Life. Much, much deeper, obviously. All right, now today we're looking at number 137. So here's the Tree of Life. Keep in mind the Tree of Life is, among other things, a map of our consciousness. Each one of the circles or spheres on the tree is an aspect of that consciousness, or a faculty of that consciousness, an ability or a capability, a parameter of that consciousness. There are 12 of these circles or spheres, and they're numbered from 10 all the way up to 0. And then there is also the abyss right here. So that's a total of 12 different faculties of consciousness, or major faculties of consciousness. Now, when we're talking about number 137, we are way up here at the 0 sphere. So the number 137 is part of the 0 sphere. So what faculty of consciousness are we talking about with the 0 sphere? Well, the 0 sphere is nothing. It is 0. And 0 does not exist. Now, when they start doing math, to get to a more advanced math, they propose the existence of 0. And that makes things a lot easier. But there is no 0. 0 is not part of this universe. You don't have 0 of something. The only 0 that you can really ever get is if you take something and then you subtract it by itself. I had 4 oranges, and then I had the 4 oranges stolen from me, so I now have 0 oranges. But that 0 oranges, that's not part of the universe. So the 0 sphere is also often in comparison with this first sphere, or the first sphere is the all and the everything. It's the higher self. It is what is at the core of everything, the deepest center of everything, and it is a network that connects one thing to another. We are all part of this greater all, and so too the 0 sphere is not part of this. So it is not part of this universe, but it is part of the Creator. So that's the distinction. The 0 sphere is not in the universe, but it is in the Creator. The Creator is not only the whole universe, but it also has a separate existence that we are not privy to. So that's also part of the 0 sphere. The 0 sphere corresponds to the lack of something, the lack of experience, the lack of emotion. It also corresponds to, now the 1st and the 0 sphere correspond to the two parts of the quadrivium of the the Latin scholastic curriculum. The 1st sphere is the geometry, and the 0 sphere is the arithmetic. And again, these are parts of the Creator. They are perfect. These are our perfect sciences. You know, geometry and arithmetic are always right. They are always going to give you the right answer if you apply it correctly. They're not like the social sciences or even some of the physical sciences where there's a lot of stuff left out for interpretation. You know, the numbers are the numbers and the shapes are the shapes, and they are perfect. Okay, now when we talk about the number 137, you know, we're here in the zero sphere, but the zero sphere is one of the 12 fractal faculties of consciousness. How do we get from 12 to 144? Well, we take the second power. So this is what we're really doing here, is taking the tree of life to the second power. And the way that you can express that is by taking the whole tree of life, all 12 aspects of the tree of life, shrinking them down to just the size of a sphere and applying them to each sphere. So you're taking each one of the faculties of consciousness and dividing that into its 12 mini faculties or fractal faculties of consciousness. So we take the whole zero sphere of the nothingness, the inner peace, the lack of emotion, the math, arithmetic, and we divide that up into its 12 parts. So within this zero sphere, there's a mini zero sphere, a mini first sphere, a mini second sphere, a mini third sphere, and so on. And today, for number 137, we're talking about a mini abyss within the zero sphere. Now, if you remember, the abyss has to do with our electromagnetism. Normally, when the abyss is the second, when it's the fractal, it is having to do with electricity. When it is actually in the abyss, then it has to do with magnetism. And the magnetism is really like the female aspect of life, and the electricity is really like the male aspect of life. When it's here in the abyss, we're usually talking about omens. An omen is really a magnetic charge, an external magnetic charge that we can align with. In the real world, it corresponds to an anomaly or a coincidence or synchronicity, something that is, goes against the rules of probability, and it's enough to alert us to that something strange is going on. And then we need to be able to respond to that. So this, the abyss here has to do with the psychic powers, and that's triggered by the omen. But within each sphere, the abyss has to do with some level of electricity. So those different aspects are going to be going into this number 137. Which is called photon, birotation, dimensional reduction, resonance. Stage number 137 is about the vibratory motion that results from a birotating motion that creates a kind of photon, the light particle. Photons are also at the heart of charges, magnetic and electricity, which is life, which are rotational vibrations. In a universe of motion, everything is made out of motion, and the photon is no exception. There are 4 kinds of motion. There is translation, there is rotation, there is vibration, and there is rotational vibration. The photon is a birotation, two separate rotations, counter-rotating motions, which entails a dimensional reduction. We have two-dimensional birotation, but when you put them together, what's left over is just a one-dimensional wave. What we call resonance is nothing more than this dimensional reduction of a birotating system. It is very similar to the idea of superconducting, but on a macro scale. Mathematically, two complex numbers merge through the epsilon function. A photon is the light particle, but it has many different forms. There are many kinds of rotations, electrons, positrons in one dimension. We have the rotational base in 2 dimensions. And a photon is a combination of two of these, two structures of the photon. There is the classic planar photon from dielectricity, one-dimensional, that comes from positrons and electrons. And then there is the solid wave from the magnetic rotation, which comes from the rotational base, the circularly polarized photon. The production of light would come from the fact that positrons and electrons merge to form photons. The positron and electron are the simplest structures, but since they manifest as pairs into photons, we tend to see photons first. Let there be light. Likewise, the rotational base shows up first and then forms a birotation with another rotational base to create a photon. The natural reference system of the universe is unit speed, or the speed of light, in 3 scalar dimensions. Scalar meaning no direction, or all directions at once. The photon is unit speed in 2 of the 3 scalar dimensions, but non-unit speed in 1 of the 3 scalar dimensions. The non-unit speed is the birotation and is a quantized summation above or below unit speed. Integral multiples or fractions. Unit frequency for the photon is 25 trillion hertz, which corresponds 25.702 trillion hertz, which corresponds to 11.67 microns wavelength, which is in the infrared band. The vibration of the photon will add or subtract to the speed of the progression. Photons are not only the source of light, but also the source of charge and life, and the source of atomic structure, a la E equals mc squared, c being the speed of light. Depending on the type of light wave, we have both longitudinal, transverse, or circular. We sense longitudinal photon or waves instantaneously as a pulse. This is a temporal adjacency, meaning they are next to each other in time, but not space, of the 2 rotations. When we have a transverse photon, that is a spatial adjacency where they are next to each other in space. And the transverse photon provides us the charge. The longitudinal photon provides us with energy. And the circularly polarized photon from the 2-dimensional rotational bases provides us with torque, or spin. Circularly polarized photons possess torque and are changing absolute locations. So they can intersect, and then the two photon motions can merge, creating atomic structure. So the transverse photons are giving us light. The longitudinal photons are giving us light. The transverse photons are giving us charge, and the circularly polarized photons are giving us torque. The light we normally see is plane or transverse. And not circularly polarized because it's been bouncing off stuff out in space. Where there is nothing out in space, when there is nothing to bounce off of, light will take its natural state as circularly polarized. The photon looks like a double bubble, which has been called a Cassini oval. All right, that is the abyss fractal of the zero sphere, photon birotation dimensional reduction resonance. And that's number 137 on the list of the 144 fractal faculties of the Tree of Life. If you'd like to get a complete listing of all 144, again, you can just leave your name and email in the comment section, and I will send that out to you for free. You can also buy a copy of my book called The Mass Tree, Introduction to the Tree of Life. That's $10. If you send that to my Cash App or Venmo that are listed in the description, I'll send that out to you. Tomorrow, I will be doing number 138 on this list as we move closer to the end here at number 144. Meanwhile, I've been preparing to do some videos on other topics that will be coming up here before the end of the year, or at least we'll get them started before the end of the year. So stay tuned for all of that. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you very soon.